My comenius project is titled Blood, Sweat, Tears, an exploration of world stigma and taboos against menstruation. So, what did the comenius process look like? Well, it all started back in September when proposals were due. I was struggling to find a topic when someone very close to me got their period for the very first time. She came to me with questions, and the first words out of my mouth were dictating the problems that this person would have to face now that she had her period. I started listing about how unfair it is, how each month she'd have to go through a week of a really bad week. And then I got thinking, well, I have 6 months to research a topic of my choosing. Why not explore the problems that women face around the world but for having periods? So, between October and January, I did research, I took notes on a variety of sources, and I also sent out a community wide survey. February, I analyzed these survey results and also conducted follow up interviews. In March, I wrote my paper, and in April, I prepared for the fair, which would happen on mid May. There were 5 sections to my project. There was an introduction, a section about religion, which included Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, a section on countries from different parts of the world: Japan, Nepal, Ghana, Venezuela, and the United States, a local section, which included survey and interviews, and finally the conclusion, which brought all of my findings together. So, the introduction. On any given day, there are 800 million people in the world who are on their periods. This means that 10% of 8 billion people are bleeding every day. Unfortunately, 58% of menstruators feel a sense of shame or disgust at the natural process. While there are many theories regarding the origins of menstruation, there are two prevalent ones, both rooted in evolutionary perspectives. The first one states that the shedding the nutrient thick endometrial lining of the uterus is more energy efficient than having to maintain it when there's no fertilized egg. The second states that periods evolved as a preventative measure against diseases or infections that could be brought about by unhealthy sperm. However, even if periods are a vital human function, cultures worldwide cannot help stigmatizing them. While modern society does an infinitely better job than it did 30 years ago, menstruators today still face judgment and assumptions based on their periods. Thankfully, science has disproved that menstruating females would cause flowers to die or bread to rise less, but individuals today still work hard to silence the much needed conversations about menstruation. Thus, the purpose of this project is to explore the stigmas of menstruation across different cultures and religions. So let's start with religion. Religion is very complex, and I looked at select passages of the Old Testament and some Islamic hadiths to draw the conclusion that most sacred texts, right, usually they're written by men who lived centuries ago, have this perspective that menstruation is an unclean process, and a lot of the times they write these guidelines that make it be treated as if it were a disease. If you go onto the global scale, in South Asia, Nepal has the worst stigma against menstruation that I found in my research. In this country, there's a practice called chaupavi, which exiles women on their periods to these huts that have poor ventilation, no running water, and high exposure to the elements and natural animals. This practice was outlawed in 2005, but it persists today with over 70% of women actively practicing it. Thankfully, fines were assigned in 2017, and repercussions are slowly being rolled out. In East Asia, specifically Japan, there's a practice that when you go out to buy menstrual products, they're handed back to you in a opaque black bag instead of the normal transparent ones. The intent of this is to make sure that nobody can see what's inside of the bag and therefore know the shameful products that you're hiding. Of course, the irony is that if you walk out with a black bag, it's kind of obvious that you're carrying menstrual products inside. In Venezuela, a plethora of social, economic, and financial crises mean that purchasing menstrual products can take up to 25% of their monthly salary. And if they would like to purchase a box of about 40 tampons, then 3 months' salary can be gone. In West Africa, specifically Ghana, a lot of women have the superstition that they can't cross the waterways that are needed to get through in their daily lives because either fear of angering any local spirits that live within the river or the fact that they'll just contaminate the water. North America, right, the United States of America, has, I think, the most interesting taboo against menstruation. Everyone sees period ads and period advertisements all over the place, whether it's in the TV, the newspaper, YouTube. The irony is that they don't have an accurate representation of what a period is. Instead of using a viscous red liquid to demonstrate period blood in their advertisements, they use a blue water like liquid. period blood isn't like blue liquid. So the United States is sending a message that, yes, we're accepting of periods. At the same time, we're not going to be giving an accurate representation of what a period is. The survey had a lovely 59 participants, which was super great to get that level of engagement within the Moravian Academy community, and it included 4 questions. The first question was, how did you learn about your period? 64 participants said that they learned about their periods from family. A lot of the times it was their mothers or sisters. The second question was, how did you feel when you got your period? Most participants were very nervous and some expressed a level of relief. The third question, how do you feel now about your period, had 51 respondents say that they disliked it or were annoyed by it. 44% of the answers said that they were unbothered, and 5% said that they actually enjoyed their periods. The final question, how comfortable do you feel discussing your period, was on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not at all comfortable, 10 being the most comfortable. And as you can see on the chart, there was an overwhelming majority of 6 and above. So a lot of people felt comfortable talking about their periods. Now, it's also important to be careful about context in this case. I didn't include specifically with who they would be talking about, discussing their periods with. So this a lot of the time can be up to the person answering the surveys. The level of comfort would vary between talking to a guy or someone who doesn't menstruate versus talking with someone who does menstruate. As a follow-up to the survey questions, a few individuals also had interviews, which included 11 questions. The first one was, when did you get your period? Were you ready? How did others around you react? How did you feel? How did you learn about your period? Have you ever felt that you couldn't or shouldn't talk about your period? Describe how comfortable you'd feel talking about your period in school, over text, and at home. How do you feel talking about your period now? Have you faced unfair judgment for being on your period? Would you walk to the bathroom holding a pad or tampon in plain sight? And describe your reaction to a London Marathon runner free bleeding for the entire race. There were a variety of participants. I had an age range from 12 years old to all the way in their mid-70s. So I had a really nice perspective of stigmas that change over the course of many generations. It's very good news. A lot of women, especially to the last one, were supportive and free to talking about it. Yet, when faced with a question like, would you walk to the bathroom holding a pad or a tampon, right? A lot of them said that they wouldn't, because even if they are advocates and support the open discussion of menstruation, society has pushed a subconscious effort to hide menstruation still. The conclusion of my Comenius project. Overall, menstruation is a controversial subject heavily dependent on a variety of factors, including religion and country of origin. Within all 3 Abrahamic religions, their holy scriptures describe rituals and steps necessary to cleanse a woman or anything they have touched during their menstruation. By doing so, they perpetuate the idea that menstruation is unclean. In countries such as Ghana and Venezuela, where water access can be severely limited, women struggle to take care of themselves appropriately when they're bleeding. As such, they feel isolated and estranged just because they have ovaries. Some countries in Asia have severe taboos against menstruation to the point where women can be exiled to dangerous huts or given their menstrual products in an opaque bag so that no one can see them. Even highly progressive and socially active countries, such as the United States, find period blood so untouchable that they use blue liquids in their advertisements. Furthermore, surveys and interviews conducted within the Lehigh Valley demonstrate that most women feel that they get unfair judgment based on the fact that they menstruate. Fortunately, people all around the world are speaking up and advocating for menstrual awareness and positivity, resulting in nearly 80% of women feeling comfortable enough to speak openly about their periods. With this project, more people will have the opportunity to learn about the problems that women face around the world. If you are still curious or would like to hear more, I'd recommend checking out the Netflix video, Period, End of a Sentence, about a group of women in India who decided to manufacture their own period products. It's fully available on YouTube. The QR code links to the full research paper that includes a works cited page and further detail. Thank you. This has been ElenaKoprowski'.